Good morning, this is Year 9 GCSE PE. Today's lesson is on levers. To access the lower grades, you just need to be able to describe and explain in red. So that's the what. To access the middle grades, you need to be able to analyse and apply, that's the blue. And then to get the top grades, you need to be able to critically evaluate, the why. That's in green. So levers, what do levers have? Well, there are three components of a lever, apart from the bone itself. There is the fulcrum, the load and the effort. So the fulcrum is the pivot around which the bone moves. So for example, if I'm extending my elbow, then the pivot is the elbow. If I am abducting my arm, then the pivot, the fulcrum, is at my shoulder. If I am bending my knee, then the fulcrum is at the knee. The effort is applied by the muscle. So if I go back to throwing a cricket ball and I want to extend at my elbow, the effort is applied by the tricep brachii, or the triceps. And then the third part is the load. So that's the weight that is moved. So again, if I'm throwing a tennis ball, the weight or the load is the weight of my lower arm plus the weight of the ball itself. So that would be the load. There's one simple way to get easy grades in your GCSE PE exam, and that's to remember this simple saying. And the saying is, for 1, 2, 3, think FLE. Remember that? For 1, 2, 3, think FLE. Okay, so let's go through the levers. There are three different types of levers in our body: first class, second class, and third class levers. You might hear them referred to as first order, second order, and third order levers. Why do we want levers? Well, we want levers because it means that we can move heavy loads with relatively little effort. It gives us a mechanical advantage. So I'm going to go straight to a second order lever, because a second order lever gives us the highest mechanical advantage. Okay, now how do you work out a mechanical advantage? Well, you have to work out the length of the effort arm in relation to the length of the load arm. So I've drawn you a picture here. So if we have a look, the fulcrum, so remember the saying again, for 1, 2, 3 think FLE. So for the second order lever, the L will be in the middle. FLE. On a first order lever, the F is in the middle. On a second order lever, the L is in the middle. And on a third order lever, like on this one, the effort is in the middle. So let's go back to my second order lever, the order lever which gives us the most mechanical advantage. Large force, large loads can be moved with relatively little effort. You can see here that the load arm, the distance between the fulcrum and the load, is relatively small in comparison to the effort arm, the distance between the pivot or the fulcrum and the effort. When the effort arm is so much bigger than the load arm, we get a mechanical advantage. And the best example in the body is when you stand on your tiptoes. You're moving a huge load, aren't you? The whole weight of your body and anything that you're lifting, anything that you're carrying. And the effort in that instance would be applied by a contraction of the gastrocnemius, creating plantar flexion at my ankle. The load is the weight of the whole body, and the pivot or the fulcrum is actually on the balls of my foot. So if we remember, I always go to a second order lever first, because remembering that's a big load moved by a small effort. From there, I'm going to go to my third order lever, because that actually is the order lever where there is the least mechanical advantage. Actually, it's actually called a mechanical disadvantage. In a third order lever, remember I was saying for 1, 2, 3, think F, L, E. So effort is going to be in the middle. So if you have a look on this one, the load arm is now actually longer than the effort arm. So this is a low mechanical advantage. But actually it does have a bonus. It has a low mechanical advantage, but it means that there's a real potentially great speed and range of movement. So for example, flexion and extension at my knee would be a third order lever. Flexion and extension at my hip would be third order levers. So you can think when you're running, you're mostly taking advantage of third order levers, apart from obviously plantar flexion at your foot, which would be the second order lever. So now let's go to a first class lever or a first order lever. Remember the same for 1, 2, 3, think F, L, E. So obviously on a first order lever, the fulcrum or the pivot is in the middle. And it depends where the tendon attaches to the bone as to whether this is how much mechanical advantage you get. But I'm going to tell you that this one is a moderate mechanical advantage. It's neither high nor low as in a second and a third order lever. How are you going to remember these things for your exam? Well, the sporting examples, remember to apply. I'm going to give you a sporting example now in relation to each order lever. So let's go to first order lever. There's two types of first order levers that you're going to be asked about in your exam. The first one is flexion at your atlas and axis or your neck when you're heading a football. It's a great example of a first order lever. And the other order lever, first order lever that you'll be asked about in an exam is, for example, in cricket when you are throwing a cricket ball from the boundary to the wicket. Extension at my elbow when you're throwing, or when you're throwing a javelin. Remember that if we're throwing a javelin or a cricket ball, then the effort is applied by the tricep, the fulcrum would be the elbow, and the load would be the weight of the lower arm and anything that you're holding, the weight of the javelin or the weight of the cricket ball as well. There's one type of second order lever that you're going to be asked about in an exam, and that's this one. This is standing on the balls of your feet. So a great sporting example of that, which I always encourage my students to write in their exam, is a jump shot in basketball, where you are actually jumping as you shoot. So don't talk about the upper arm, it's just the action of jumping from the floor. Talk about plantar flexion at the created by the gastrocnemius to actually leave the floor. Alright? And then a third order lever. Well, remember that the third order levers, the vast majority of levers in our body are third order levers. So a simple one again is in football, when kicking the ball, the quadriceps contract to create extension at the knee. So the knee would be the fulcrum, the quadriceps would be applying the effort, and the load would be the weight of my lower leg and the weight of the football on contact. Okay, so it's not, people get really stressed in exams about levers, and it's an easy way to pick up lots of marks. If you can just remember that saying, for 1, 2, 3, think FLE. When you're drawing out a lever, you can do it in rough on the side of your paper, draw out the levers, and always put in the effort arm and the load arm. Go to the second order lever, because that's the one you know gives you the most mechanical advantage. Remember, mechanical advantage is being able to move heavy load with relatively little effort. The downside of a second order lever is that there's limited speed and range of movement, whereas in a third order lever, although it's the least mechanical advantage, it's actually termed a mechanical disadvantage. It does give us potentially the most speed and range of movement at the joint. So there is a payoff there. Okay? What I'd like you to do now, please, is you'll find this slide on Show My Homework. I'd like to copy it into your blue books, please. I'd like you to, I'll take a photograph of the board, and I'll pop that as an attachment on Show My Homework. Could you transfer that photograph please to your photo albums in your mobile phone? I think this is actually the 22nd lesson now. So levers done easily, easy way to get marks. Please don't be put off by them in an exam. Thank you.